John Carl's following your money. He is here with the story right now. John, this is something. $76,000 for one staffer in 9 months?
Yes, and keep in mind, for congressional staffers and for members of Congress, international travel is an important part of the job.
That is very true.
But the key is that there is no limit on how much they spend on these trips, and we found they are offered spending far more than they need to.
Meet Congress's $76,000 man. In just 9 months, he spent more than 76,000 taxpayer dollars traveling to European capitals, including $9,000 flying to Barcelona and nearly $4,000 on food and hotel there, 3 trips to Germany for more than $30,000, and more than $20,000 for 15 days in Copenhagen, where he attended the summit on climate change. Who is this international man of mystery? His name is Harlan Watson, a staffer on the House Climate Change Committee and just one of the many congressional staffers who routinely enjoy business-class travel and expensive hotels at taxpayer expense.
Congressman, how are you?
We couldn't get an interview with Mr. Watson, but we did track down his boss, Republican Congressman James Sensenbrenner.
We wanted to ask you about Harlan Watson's travels. We've noticed that he spent $76,000 on travel just in the last 9 months alone.
This was all approved by Chairman Markey. Ask him.
But he's your staffer, right? Doesn't Mr. Watson work for you?
Mr. Watson is a minority employee, but the minority does not approve travel, so talk to Chairman Markey.
Do you have a problem with spending $76,000 traveling to European capitals over the course of just 9 months?
When we asked Congressman Markey, the Democratic chairman of the committee, about this, his spokesman told us, quote, "He doesn't work for us. He's a Republican." Harlan Watson seems to be the biggest spender of late, but he has a lot of competition. The congressional record lists pages and pages of foreign trips by members of Congress and their staff. At the start of the trips, they get paid cash for food and incidentals. They can be as much as $200 a day. No need for receipts. If you don't spend the money, keep it.
They can spend it on gifts, so they can take it home and invest it. They can do whatever.
In December, the Senate spent nearly $500,000 sending a delegation to the Climate Change Summit in Copenhagen that included 40 staff, but only 2 senators. One, Senator James Inhofe, was on the ground for only a few hours, but spent more than $8,000 just on airfare.
I think the rule is that you travel business class if you go abroad, as opposed to sitting back in the, we call voter class.
Madam Chairman,
in a 2-week period, Democratic Congressman Bart Gordon spent more than $20,000 on trips to London and Italy. Congressman told us he attended important meetings on issues like radioactive waste disposal and that his airfare was booked by the Congressional Travel Office.
By the way, I'm a taxpayer too, so you can find cheaper tickets, let me know.
You can fly to Europe a lot cheaper if you book the flights yourselves. Take a look at these flights from Washington to London. Any number of flights for $700, $730. It's really hard to find a flight that actually costs $10,000. A good way to save taxpayer money? At least one congressman thinks so.
You could get other people who book the trips to see if you could book a delegation to Expedia or something. It's okay with me.
In reality, there is no incentive for Congress to limit the cost of these trips. George, the Capitol Hill newspaper Roll Call had a fascinating story revealing that Congress doesn't budget for these trips, it doesn't directly pay for them, and they come from a special fund, one of the few in Washington, out of the Treasury Department that automatically renews. There is no limit. Last year it was $15 million spent.
Now, what members of Congress say back to that is the point you made at the start, that they do need to do this official travel, and all of these expenses are disclosed. People can make up their own mind.
Well, they're disclosed to a degree, George. Very broad brushstrokes. You learn how much is spent on travel. You learn how much is spent overall on other per diem costs, and there's a category called other. So there's no detailed breakdown of where the expenses are, and sometimes the expense reports are filed up to a year after the trips happen.
A year?
Yes.
Okay, John Carl, following our money. Thanks very much.